Okay. So back by popular demand. So Luka Nation, when we left National, there was so much enthusiasm. There was a ton of excitement. We met so many people. We wanted to bring you guys a series that was more popular than we could have ever imagined. You know, we're hitting record numbers. Cage calls me all the time. He says, our listener numbers are through the roof. This is our record.
I say, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it.
Yeah. And we figured, all right, let's get back to our daily programming. So we did that for a week. And then we wanted to bring you a special edition of 10 for 10. People that are our friends, our partners, people that are running successful businesses. And today we have someone that fits all that criteria. And I think you're going to want to stay tuned for this episode because you're going to learn a lot. You're also going to hear a lot about a startup that is making waves in the hobby. And they entered the space with criticism. And I think you guys have done an admirable job, not only handling the criticism, but kind of rising above it and staying true to what you are and what you believe. Transparency, honesty, integrity, kindness. People say your customer service is some of the best in the game. And as a customer-centric entrepreneur, I grew up in a family business. That means a lot to me. You guys might not know who I am introducing. It's Mr. Tyler Hitt, CEO of Hybrid Grading, HGA. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show. It's really, really good to have you, Tyler.
Thank you. I'm going to mute, turn Do Not Disturb on real fast.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Cage, we'll get into grading. We'll get into HGA. You guys mentioned you got into Pokemon and TCG. We'll get into all that. But first, you famously ripped the Lamelo National Treasures. And if you were a breaker, Tyler, your face was stoic. Very little excitement. It's like you do it every week. What was the feeling like? Do you always rip National Treasures boxes? Was this the first time ever? Were you excited and that's just your poker face? Talk to us.
I've ripped a little bit of National Treasures in my day.
You can tell because it's like, hey, look what's in the box, everybody. Oh,
yeah.
What are we getting for lunch? Oh, it was great.
I hit a Lamelo.
Yeah, it's a Lamelo in
Sorry,
there.
trying to fix my camera. I had a call come in, and now I can't hardly hear you all.
It happens. Don't worry about it. It happens. Trust me, it happens to me almost every episode. So we'll bear with you. No worries. So you open up a box of National Treasures, and it so happens that there's a card stuck in the bottom, right?
Hold on, my camera. All right, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Sorry, I had a call come through, and it kicked you back into like the earphone. I couldn't figure out how to turn it back on speaker.
No, we're good. We got you 100%.
Yeah, but So I opened it, and there's a funny story behind it. So I had, when we were ripping National Treasures Collegiate, one of my buddies, Austin, was opening it, closed the box, opened it up. We were missing a card, finished opening the rest. Still a card missing. So we went back through and opened the boxes, and there was a LaMelo Ball RPA stuck in the bottom of the National Treasures Collegiate. And sure enough, when I dumped that box out on my hand and I turned it back up, I was like, it just cracked me up because there was a LaMelo Ball just stuck to the bottom of it. So, yeah, it was it's something you're looking for. I mean, that's what you're hoping to get, but it's not exactly that way. When you flip it back, you're expecting it to stay in there.
He's sticky, that LaMelo Ball. Maybe
yeah,
it's a little sticker autos.
Yeah.
I think this will touch on a little bit of the integrity, and I never thought about this until you brought it up, but you don't grade cards with HGA. Like you wouldn't grade that with your own company. You sold it right away. So talk us through why did you make the decision like that?
So one of the big reasons I made that decision is I don't want anybody to ever accuse us or accuse me of giving myself preferential grades, even though we do it through our computer software program. We still do have 2 steps of grading checks to make sure that there's nothing weird or wacky that the AI picked up or that it's being overly sensitive. So I just refuse to grade with my own company. I have a huge collection in my office, and it's all raw.
Ty,
Headline of the episode, Tyler likes it raw. Go ahead. You can continue.
I'm glad you brought that up because there's so many questions about computer vision technology, grading. We get DMs all the time, and Cage will tell you because, I mean, Cage is answering DMs crazy, but yesterday someone said, I got an HGA return back. I thought these were all 10s. I got 9s. And you guys have been grading very hard from day one. And at first you hear that and you're like, oh, that's not great. But actually it shows honesty and integrity and true grading. So Can you talk to us about kind of your grading process and the computer vision technology? Share a little light for our Luka Nation listeners.
Yeah,
And a lot
absolutely.
of people are joining us for the first time, so this is going to be fun. They're going to be HGA customers soon.
I hope so. So September 18th is a big day for us. We're going to actually have all the final patents pulled. We'll be doing a live demonstration of our AI. So that'll be exciting. If you all want to cover it as well, let me know. And on September 18th, we'll let you cover it as well. And so it'll go into more depth of exactly how the centering is found. It'll show you the algorithms. It'll show that if for some reason it's finding the wrong edging or whatever, we can override it and fix it with touchscreens. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's a neural. I say AI, but we use the word AI originally just because people don't understand neural network technology. So if I start talking about neural networks and deep neural networks, computer vision, a lot of people are like, I don't know what that is, but people seem to at least understand the word of AI. They know it's an artificial intelligence. Neural networks is just when you start creating layers and layers of yeses and nos, checks and balances. And that's kind of what that is. Computer vision is just being able to interpret the vision or an image and to neural networks so it can then read it and then stage and level it. So, and this is stuff I've learned from my huge team. Now we have like 30 people that work on this behind the scenes constantly. And they're always, checking and making sure that the cards that we're putting in are right. There's just every single card that gets scanned in gets added to the database. We're a couple 100,000 cards. So it's just, continuing to redefine itself day after day. So it's going to be exciting for us to be able to show a more in depth. The big thing, here from the very beginning, I thought, okay, well, now we'll show the AI. My team's like, well, we got to get the patents. I'm like, okay, no big deal. File for the patents. As we started moving, and this is the first time I've really talked about this in depth, we found out there was a company out there just pulling patents. They're just called patent pooling companies. And what they do is they try to block other companies from being able to do stuff. Or if I just ignore their patents and go ahead and create it and not become successful, they come back and they're like, oh, you went over something that we did, and they'll sue us. So pretty much some of the patents were as generic as take a picture and put it into a computer vision program. That was it. That was one of the patents that were pulled. So we had to override that and get that tossed out to show that there was no legitimacy to that as a patent. Like, no matter what you do, even with like all your receipts, your accounting software, receipts being stored, you take a picture of it. So, I mean, it was a very generic patent that should never have been passed. So we had to go through and get all this thrown out, or otherwise we were at risk for lawsuits. But now as we're closer, our final patents are being done. I can now start talking more openly about the process and the headache it's been. We're well into the 7-figure mark of getting all the patents pulled just because of the amount of man hours and attorneys that we have attorneys in LA, Oklahoma City, and Louisiana that have been working on these, trying to get it done. Not a cheap thing to do at all. I'm trying to get patents overturned and thrown out. But we've been very successful. We now have 7 patents and like 18 trademarks with our program that will allow us to be able to show September 18th, a demonstration of how it works. So it's just a very consistent neural network model that's been trained from data over and over and over and over.
So a couple of things. One, if you're listening to this and your plan was to next week quit your job and open a grading company from your basement, might not work unless you've got, a couple lawyers in Oklahoma, a few lawyers in LA, some New York lawyers, and the 7 figures behind you just to pull the patents and do what you got to do for your neural network. 2.
And a fighter mentality, right? Battling with all that stuff.
It's every day waking up and you're at war. It feels like every day. It's like you wake up and you're like, what am I going to deal with today? And then the attorney's calling like, hey, you're getting challenged on this one. What do you want to do? It's 100,000, try to overthrow it. Or you can rewrite your coding to make sure it's nowhere near what theirs is. And I'm like, okay. So then, then it's meetings for a couple of days and reading with my coding guys. I feel like I'm fairly intelligent, but these guys, I mean, this is what they've done their whole life is coding. So when they're reading this code to me and they're like D equals MC squared, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And so, we spent a lot of time, having to overthrow stuff and, rewrite stuff. And it was funny when we first started, people were like, oh, they're out of their basement. And I'm like, man, if you all only knew the amount of money that's being dumped in this and the amount of people that are working on this. At one point we had more people working on the backside than working in house. I mean, now we're at 300 employees in house, probably 50 behind the scenes. So we're a rather large company right now, and we're finally, being able to be even more open than we were in the past.
So I didn't think you'd be able to change the title midway through 9 minutes in from Tyler Likes It Raw, but now Tyler is working on the backside. So I don't know. I'm in a juvenile state of mind here. With,
I love it.
with my episode. I don't know what's going on, but so it's funny because I'm listening to you talk, and all I'm thinking was the Terminator movie. It's like, my CPU is a neural net processor made by Cyberdyne Systems. I'm like, what the hell are we talking about? Like, can't you just say AI? I mean, you first started talking, I thought Allen Iverson was in the basement grading cards.
That's what he was. Yeah, we kidnapped him.
Like,
we kidnapped AI and he graded.
Jesus, whew, sheesh. But I don't know, man. This is confusing to me. All I know is when we went to the National, and I want to talk to you about the National also. I mean, obviously, it's not just, hey, let's grade cards, buy some plastic, and throw some paper in there and do the stuff, right? But when we went to the National, and I want to talk to you about your team's response to the National, because that's kind of, the overall theme of the 10 for 10, right? People learn at the National. We went to trade nights, and I will tell you this, and it's just my own perception, my own observation. When we went out to trade nights, I saw a lot of PSA cards, but second to PSA, what I saw were a lot of HGA slabs, because what I saw were a lot of cards from this last year's football, this last year's basketball, cards that, were not going to fit into the PSA grading model with it closed the way it is now, right? Yeah. I saw some SGC cards, saw some BGS cards, but I saw a lot of, Joe Burrow with the color match with the label, an aqua optic colored Herbert card with the matching color to the card, like an aqua, custom label. And, people would just set up at their tables, like, here's the cards. And there weren't as many HGA as there were PSA. You wouldn't expect that. You haven't been around for a year yet. But there were a lot of HGA cards. What was the reception that your team got at the National? Obviously, it was your first time there because you weren't around at the last National. So talk to us about that. What kind of reception did you get?
Yeah, it was great. My team came back. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there. My team came back, and they were like, they were worried. I mean, originally going up there, they were, we went over everything. They're like, what kind of questions do you think we'd expect? And, we just kind of went over everything. And I told them, just treat everybody with kindness and just be open and real with them. But they said that they received 99% positive, feedback. A lot of people a couple people came up to him and said, hey, I'm one of the ones that heckle Tyler on Facebook and give him a hard time. But really, I'm rooting for you all to really overtake some people. And they told me names, and I'm like, he actually came up and said that because, there's a lot of people that heckle me on Facebook and Instagram and just anywhere. And I think a lot of people do it just for the fun of it and knowing that I'm going to respond and, defend our company. But, it was, they called me after the first night and they were all so excited. They're like, it's amazing. They're like, just ignore everybody on Facebook because the people here who we actually talk to face to face love us. They're like, they're rooting for us, pulling for us. They're like, all the people that you're worried about probably have never even submitted a card anywhere. They're just on there bothering you.
It's very true. Who was it that told me that the other day? Maybe it was Mark Zablow, who we also had on for 10 for 10 from Bleecker. It was, you can't read the Twitter stuff. You can't read the comments. You can't read the reviews. Otherwise, you're just gonna be stuck reading reviews and being upset about them the whole time.
Yep.
So
I'll say though, it cuts both ways. So our hobby's really interesting. They'll tear you down and they'll be so outspoken and they'll be all over Facebook. But if you do things right and if you win, they're also equally outspoken and the word of mouth spreads. Right. And I think you guys have done a good job with that. There's been a lot of drama this year, some deserved, some completely undeserved. And I feel like you guys have kept moving, kept going. Your team, I've gotten the pleasure to know a little bit. You guys work hard, play hard, right? You guys did that Marcus Smart card, right? Tell us the story behind that, the super off-centered card. Your team came to you and they're like, should we grade this? And you're like, why wouldn't we grade this? So could you share that story?
Yeah, so actually it was the customer's request was, can I get a label to match the card? And it came to me and they didn't even want to grade it. They're like, it's off-center. I'm like, it's still a card. It still was cut to where it would fit in our slabs. I'm like, why would we not grade it? If the customer wants to grade it, it's their card. Let's grade it. I was like, we don't get to say, yeah, your card's not good enough to be graded, so we're going to grade it. And they said a label to match it. I was like, let's just, spice it up even more. Let's really make it match the card. Just shift it all over just like that is. And we actually are now working on some cards that are complete miscuts that are down where it's like half a player. So we're going to do the same thing with our label again. The hobby still needs to be enjoyable. And, I think we can be very consistent in our grading as well as still have fun with these type of labels. Yeah, that's the one. So, but yeah, we just shifted it over just to try to make it match and just really give it some character.
Listen, that's amazing, right? Because that's what you can get with kind of like a newer company. I don't want to call you small because you're growing in leaps and bounds. We can get into that in a minute, but
Right.
You can customize it. You reach out to the customer and say, "Well, okay, let's let's do this." Right? I saw a cool 52 tops. I think it might have been a Jackie Robinson that was shifted so far over on the sheet, but it was cut. You could see the card next to it was Mantle's bat right on his card. Like that would be cool. Like if you could do your label and have like a little Mickey Mantle kind of like on the edge of the like just cool stuff like that, almost meme worthy, right? And you're not trying to take away from the credibility of it, but it's okay to balance out being a credible grading company with having some fun because we are supposed to be having fun. And listening to your audience is a great topic, Andrew. I'll give you two of them, and you can talk about both of them. We can start off with one and then move to the other. The first one is obviously pricing will go up, right? Because your costs go up, right? I mean, pricing is going to go up. The cost, the slabs are going to go up. The material costs are going to go up. You name it. And you announced the price increase, and there were probably not many companies that would do this, but you had enough feedback from people, and they were like, you know what, that's too much for right now. You got a lot of feedback from folks saying, we can absorb this. Just let us know about it. Give us some time to get cards in. We know you'll raise prices on us in a month, 2, 3, whenever you have to do it. But can you roll these back for us temporarily, just so that we can get our stuff? And you know what you did? Eventually you were like, all right, that's fine. No problem. We heard you. We can't keep the prices where they are, for good, but we'll give you a respite. We will roll them back to where they were. And, don't be surprised when we do roll out a higher price at some point in time. But not a lot of companies are going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and you guys did.
So I think one of my worst moments were early on was I made a Facebook message when I think it was PSA or BGS and SGC all raised their prices like within a 24-hour period. And I went on and just made a joke like, oh, guess who's raising their prices? Not us. Just poking fun. And I think people forget that there's somebody that is a human that runs the company. I'm a private held company. I own 100% of the company. Nobody owns anything besides me. I'm still human. So I was poking fun at another company or other companies, not one in particular. But the difference between what our price raises were and theirs were, I mean, like, I don't know if you remember, SGC went from 25 to 75 overnight. PSA shut down they had like a $20 per card increase, and then they ended up shutting down everything. Ours was literally to cover the cost of our plastics. Our plastics went up 220% within a week period. Our paper products went up like 34%. So all of our costs started just going up over the past month or two. And I'm like, all right, we're going to have to balance this out somehow. So what we did is we lowered the high end and we raised the lower end. And we thought, it'll balance itself out. More people will then submit their cards for higher end, and it'll help balance out what we need to make. But we got bad feedback, and I get it. Like, oh yeah, you're the same guy who said you wouldn't raise prices. I'm like, yeah, I did say that. I didn't mean forever. I mean, in 2100, I don't expect the price to still be the same, but there's going to be eventually a point to where we have to make some changes. But yeah, so I wrote them back. I mean, that's a great thing about being me is I own 100% of the company. If I see something wrong, I can make that call. And I think that's one reason I get tagged so much on Facebook. Somebody's unhappy, I'll take care of it. My goal is not to get rich quick and leave. My goal is to create a better company and a better community for people to grade cards, and we want to bring more to that continually.
Without getting into specifics, you could just yes or no on this. If the goal was to get rich quick and leave quick, you probably could have done that already, right?
I'm getting really bad feedback.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Goldberg, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
I can't understand you. It sounds like a robot. It sounds like our AI talking to me.
Ooh, nice. I'm a Cyberdyne computer. I'm Cyberdyne neural networks. So can you hear me now? Am I still sounding like we lost him?
You still sound like some type of robot.
So I will ask the question like this. No. Andrew, can you hear me all right?
I hear you perfectly fine.
All right.
Can you hear him fine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I hear you fine, but I can't hear Cage.
Look what just came out on the bottom. HGA has graded Cage a 7. You did. You put me through the robot system.
That's what it is. Now you're fine again. Now you're fine. Now you're an 8.5.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. I don't know if I'm that happy about 8.5. I got to tell you. But so here you go. Man,
it's your centering. You're just off center a little bit. Left to right.
Wow,
you're a little less heavy.
I'm getting abused over here. All right, well, listen, it's only fair. I gave you the like it raw stuff. I gave you the you're working on the back end. I can be a little left heavy. It's okay. It's they're hanging a little low on the left. I get it. So, but here's the question I asked you, and I think you'll answer just because it's the kind of guy you are. No details, no nothing. But you just said you're not in this to get rich quick. I think if you wanted to get rich quick and leave. You probably could have done that already.
Yeah. So our
Okay.
third week in
I
business.
don't want specifics. Just a yes is fine.
Okay.
Just a yes is fine. I mean,
Yes, I could have.
Obviously, if you want to get into it, you can. But I mean, like I'm not trying to press for private, information here. But I would imagine that you. All right. If you want to,
I'll just give you a quick. I'll give you a quick story. Our third week in business, we had 140,000 cards added to our website. Our fourth week in business, we had 185,000 cards added to our website just that week alone. So in those 2 weeks, we could have taken in 340,000 cards and taken the money in and just close up shop. I could have opened up the queue and be like, y'all just get your cards back when you want. I didn't. It's not been about, I make a very good living from other companies I own, other investments that I have. It's not about the money. I'm very passionate about it. And so that's the big difference. That's why when people are upset, we've done something wrong, they feel like something's not right. I'm the first one to reach out because I truly care. But yeah, no, we could have just opened up submissions early on when there was a crazy demand, when everybody was still trying to get through PSA and stuff was backing up. SGC jumped to $75, and that's when the week that we saw 180,000 cards get added to our website. Our queues were sometimes 12 to 14,000 people in the queue. So I mean, we could have just opened it up and made millions in a couple of weeks and just disappeared.
But you never would have gotten the cards back. That's the thing, right? You would have just been done. So instead, you decided to play the long game, get people their cards back when you said you were going to get them back, and still be here and continue to build it up, which is great. Yep. So the other thing where people give you feedback on, and I know everybody wants to know about it, so I'd be remiss if we didn't ask. You showed a picture of a horizontal slab, which nobody else does, and it's a really cool thing because there are some cards that are horizontal that'll look really nice, and you kind of put it out there, and you got feedback from folks, right?
Yep.
And now we're in a redesign.
Yeah.
Right?
So I guess when I released it, our biggest thing is we use these 48-inch printers. I say 48-inch printers. That's the size sheet they print on is a 48-inch sheet. They're actually 8.5 to 9 feet long printers, and they're about almost $30,000 each. Now, the issue was when we have to design all these labels, I wanted to keep all the labels same, even on the horizontal. The feedback was they wanted the label stretched. Even after I talked to people on the list, and it's not as feasible, it's going to hurt us time-wise trying to implement and print 2 different sizes on one printer. So it ended up costing me about $60,000 just to cut the mold on them and get that sample was $20,000. So I cut it, got it up, got in a sample. Some mixed reviews. Some people liked it. Some people hated it. Some people wanted the label width. That's what, at the width of the card. So what did I do? We scrapped that mold, cost $20,000 again to report. And then we had to order a whole new printer in. I think we paid $24,000 or something for the new printer. And it'll be specifically for this label. So we'll send that size label to that printer and then the other size label to the other printer. So
it's cool. It's just another thing people have asked for and that people think they like. You give another option to folks.
Yep. So like I said, we're trying to do everything we can to, if somebody has feedback or something, I want to make sure to try to be the company for the people.
Well, I mean, that's a great segue. You're the company for the people. But Tyler, what we have come to know about you is you're not just competitive and you want to win, right? And I'm the best at everything. It's great, but you're honest. So I'll ask you a question and make it easy. Right now, would you tell people that they should send every single type of card to HGA, no matter what kind of card it is?
No. I mean, I give SGC props on the vintage market. They own the vintage market. They'll outsell pretty much anybody. They have a lot of experts down there on vintage. If you pull up our sales, our 9s versus their 9s on vintage cards, 80s, 70s, 60s, they're going to probably consistently outsell us. Now, when you come to modern and ultra modern, our prices are, we're going to have some data on this, but our 9.5s consistently outsell their 10s. Our 10s blow away everybody else's 10s. So I think on the ultra modern and modern, we're already gaining and garnering some respect. But I think on vintage, I think you're safer going with PSA, SGC, even BGS. They've been in the market longer, and the older collectors, more mature collectors who have a lot of cards from back then, they don't trust us yet. And so I think that's the group that we're going to have to win over as time rolls on. They're going to be like, I ain't grading with somebody who's a year old. I'll wait till they're 5 years old. Then I'll consider them. So I think that's just kind of where we're at with the vintage market.
Do you think that the reason you guys won over those customers, right? When a grading company comes on, you always expect that they're going to have demand, but their resale values are going to be lower. You guys came and hit the scene, and I think you've captured the gifting market and the personal collection market really, really well, right? Like those cards that people want to keep for a long time. Like the one I love is the Shohei Ohtani with kind of the Asian,
Japanese label.
The Japanese. Yeah, I think that's super cool. And there's a lot of Otani cards out there. Some you want to sell for thousands, thousands of bucks. Some you just love the player and you want to hold. So you guys started with that. Is it surprising that, what's it been, a year in business, that you guys are up there with the big dogs? Or is that Tyler comes in and he's like, I've done businesses, I've ran businesses, I'm going to instill the values and culture, and I believe that if we do things the right way, we'll win?
I believe if you do things the right way and you work hard, you win at anything. I don't go into anything, like I said, from the very first time I met you all back in January or February. We've been open almost 7 months now. I don't go into anything thinking I'm not going to be the best. I don't go into anything half-assing it and thinking that I don't have the tools necessary or the people around me that can build something better than what's already in place. This is not my first rodeo. This is my first business venture. It's not going to be my last. Anything I go into, I'm going in with a solid plan. I go in with a set scope, and I go in with fundamentals and ethics, and just try to continue to build a solid company with a solid foundation. So yeah, I see us right now in the top 3 or 4 right now already with 7 months in, and I'd see us in the top 2 within the next year.
I know you're doing, were we your first rodeo? Were we the first podcast that had you on, and now you're doing like a circuit tour and everyone's inviting you on? Were we the first?
Honestly, I was trying to think of that when I was getting back on. I'm like, man, it's funny. Like, it's 7 months ago. Seems like so long ago, but
right.
Y'all were one of the first podcasts I was on.
Oh, listen, we were lucky to have you, and you've graded millions of cards since, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
really.
It literally feels like this is how economic cycles work, right? Because in January we had like Top Shot, and then the Jordan cards hit like astronomical highs. Yep. March we had companies close down their doors and raise prices, and the market was. It does feel like forever ago. And what are we? 6 months, 7 months into the year?
7 months in. It's so much has happened between now and then. It's just wild to sit there and think about. Like, when I sit here and talk to you, I'm like, was that only 7 months ago? Like, it's just wild.
What's going to happen in the next 7 months? That's the scary part.
Yeah. Tyler, can you talk to us about the show you have coming up? It's in 3 weeks. From my perspective, I've never been to Tennessee, or not in a long time. This is a family show. This is going to be a fun show. You guys have like a water park attached to the convention. Talk to us about the show coming up, please.
So you obviously missed the memo. We canceled the show about 10 days ago.
Tell me not.
You shouldn't have told him. I was waiting. By the way, I wanted him to just show up in Tennessee, Tyler. There's
no direct to interrupt him, but I was like, no, I'll let him go.
I was like, no. I can't believe he's asking, because now Tyler's going to ruin it for me. I had the tickets booked for him. I was sending him to Tennessee. He was going to show up. He was going to get pictures in the water park with no show. It's going to be great.
You and I have talked since then about the show.
Yeah, we have.
All right, fine. Next question.
I'll lead you down a path. Listen, this is the world we're in. Shows get canceled. The Oscar thing this weekend, it was supposed to be in White Plains, and White Plains is not allowing it. They're doing vaccinations there. The Hofstra show, you have to wear masks. The world is getting eaten up by the things that are going on. But go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah. So we just the new COVID variant, Delta. It's really obviously hitting everywhere hard again. But they went into mask mandates in Knoxville, and Sevier County is now considering mask mandates. And when mask mandates go into place here, they shut down to 80% occupancy rates, or to 20%. So they cut 80% out. So it was going to be only able to support 1,000 people at a time. At that point, we had half of what would have been there, over half of it, because we had 600 booths available. So we'd have had 1,200 people just in booths. So we'd have had 0 customers or fans come in. So
we're just dealers sitting there talking to other dealers with no actual people allowed.
Yep. So just dealers and celebrities. And I was like, well, this can't happen. I was like, and then, put us on a weird time constraint because you have to move stuff. So it's actually, I say canceled, but it's actually just got rescheduled. So it's going to be for next June. We should be releasing the new date here soon.
So I want to ask you about your partnership with Pristine Auctions. If you have any, comments on the recent hobby drama and all that stuff, we'll save that to the end, because I'd like to kind of layer on the positivity, the optimism in the beginning.
Can Andrew still go to Tennessee, by the way? He was really looking forward to the water park.
Absolutely. Come hang out anytime. At the water park by yourself.
That's not a good look. That's just not going to be a good look. You've run businesses successfully. So it always, sometimes, not always, it takes someone that comes in from an outside perspective to view an industry and be like, this is how, using my previous experience and resources, I could impact this industry in a positive way. I think you kind of did that. So I'm curious. You could do one thing that's positive, one thing that surprised you, one thing positive, negative. What's one thing since you kind of joined the hobby as a businessman that you're like, this is awesome? And what's one thing you're like, I did not expect this?
So the one thing I didn't expect was all the backlash. Just how negative people can be and how many haters can be just publicly just try to humiliate, shame you. That's probably been the hardest part of this because I'm such a caring person. Most people around me that are close to me don't know that because I have to, maintain the strong employer owner, status. But it's hard to deal with. That was the hardest adjustment, is to hear people like tell you to go jump off a bridge and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. So that was definitely the hardest part. One of the more fun things, honestly, it sounds a little weird, but we see all these other new grading companies pop up, and the very first thing that most of them go after is attractive labels. So until we came out, I've not seen another company go with color matching labels, but now you see all these other smaller companies that are startups. That's the first thing they try to go to, is like, we've got hollow labels, we've got this label, we go straight black labels. So that's kind of one of the things that is kind of a pat on our back. Like, look, something that you can obviously tell that people are doing, because all the new companies that are popping up are trying to go with some type of special labels like we have.
Imitation's the sincerest form of flattery.
Absolutely.
Listen, I love it. I think it's great. And you know what? We had, I'll never forget it. Blake Jameson, one of our guys who came on, one of the top artists, the Project 2020. We use a lot of his lines. He had a lot of great one-liners, and one of them was like, if you play it right down the middle, you're not going to succeed, right? You have to be polarizing, right? In order to do something that is going to be worth doing, you're going to have people who love it, and you're going to have people who come out and hate it. So it really is,
Cage, is it funny to you as like a legend in the hobby that polarizing is color labels and custom labels? Like, the hobby's so stuck in its ways that custom labels were polarizing?
Yes. It is funny to me because I have been in the hobby for a long time. I remember going to shows where 90% of the room was saying grading would never catch on. No baloney. Seriously. That was like, what is this graded card? I can't even tell what it's in plastic. How am I supposed to look at it? How am I supposed to see whether or not this corner is how am I? This could be anywhere from excellent to excellent mint. This could be anywhere from, in the Beckett book, it could be anywhere from an EX to an EXMT, how do I know who put this in this plastic like this? Seriously, that was what, buy the card, not the grade, was started by those people like that. The guys who have the binders of vintage, who don't need somebody else to tell them what their card grade is. But they missed the point, right? And then the hobby, I don't want to say it passes them by, because obviously you went to the national, that was still half the show was those guys, picking their nose and going through their vintage books. But it is what it is, that's still a huge part of the hobby, I guess. But obviously now the grading is a huge thing. It's a huge part of liquidity in the hobby. It's a huge part of what has allowed a lot of these companies to come in, the StockX's, the Star Stocks, and all of these companies with the slabs, right? So when that becomes mainstream, now a PSA slab or an SGC slab or a BGS slab, they're just slabs. So of course the next version, right, the 2.0 slab, is going to be somebody taking that to another level. But just like the masses were, what is this slab thing you got going on? Of course, the first pushback is going to be, wait, there's a pirate ship on the label? Wait, that kind of looks cool with the Tom Brady pirate ship there. I see what you're doing. Not everybody's going to buy that. People will be like, what is this for kids? Card grading is a profession. It's a professional business. It needs to be red, white. It needs to be black. It needs to be professional. You can't have a shiny label. All right. That's why I get it. It does not surprise me.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your partnership with Pristine Auctions.
Okay. So we've been speaking on and off for a couple of months, and they kind of have been a huge auction house for memorabilia. And they said they wanted to really start venturing into more of the cards. And so I was like, listen, we're new. We have AI. I've talked to the owner there. I've talked to his assistants. And I just kind of explained our vision and our goal. And he's like, we'd be willing to take you on. And I was like, it's great for us. It gives us the first auction house that we're going to sign up with. And then people will actually be able to, within the next couple of weeks, when they're putting their order in, it'll say auction house. They'll be able to click yes or no, and then they'll be able to click which auction house. Right now we have just Pristine. But in the future, we want to continue to expand that as well. And then people will be able to actually click that they want their card to go straight to an auction house from us, so we can grade it and send it out. So if they're sending in big cards, we'll make it very easy for them to send to the auction house if they're just grading them to flip them.
Wow, like one-stop shopping.
Yep.
Will you give the ability I'll send it to the auction house as long as it's a 10? Send it to the auction house.
Yeah, so we will do minimum grades on them. It's just trying to build it out in the system to where it's quick and seamless on our side. So we don't send something that's an 8.5 if they only wanted 9. So it's a little more work that we're on the backside, trying to clean up a little bit. But yeah, soon it'll have minimum grade. So if it doesn't get above a 9, then don't grade it and just send it back. Or if it gets at least a 9, grade it, send it to Pristine or whichever auction house. So it's a great step for us to really start getting known. And once we start getting accepted by more auction houses, then it's like, okay, now since they're accepted by auction houses, now we can send our bigger cards, because a lot of people won't send in big cards until they can go to Golden or Heritage or one of the large auction houses.
Those little arcade basketball hoops? So Pristine Auctions had one at the National, and they were my favorite booth. I would have liked them to have a dual one so you could kind of compete, because they only had one.
Right.
Area for improvement for last year, but I loved it because I loved I just got to shoot some hoops, play some ball. So they were my favorite booth at National. So congratulations
awesome.
on the partnership.
Thank you.
Well, listen, the question we get a lot, I don't want to say it's the question we get the most. The question we get a lot is, why HGA? Why are we going to partner with HGA? And I hope that we get that question less. And anybody who is listening and watching this episode now knows the answer. That's kind of the reason why we tried to get Tyler on, right? It's difficult to spend a half an hour with you and not kind of believe in the vision that you have. So, Andrew, if you got any other questions, great. I love spending time with you, Tyler, because, really, guys, what we get from Tyler is somebody who wants to move this stuff forward, right? Somebody who sees that, there are improvements that can be made in grading. And I'll give you a pat on the back also. Imitation is the best form of flattery. The fact that these other companies are coming in now and they're keying in on doing custom labels or fancier labels, that is a nod to you. That means that you did find an area of this hobby that there was a void in. I say nature abhors a vacuum, right? There was a space to fill, and you are filling that, and now people are trying to copy you. That's a good thing. You should pat yourself on the back. Don't take too much of a break, because you got to get the horizontal labels right. You got to get the patents pulled. I've got too much to do. You got to do, but it's cool spending time with you. Knowing that you're not going anywhere. You weren't in it for the quick buck, and that's important, I think, for folks who are grading with HGA, because it's important to know I'm going to have an HGA slab. HGA is still going to exist next year. You know what I mean? And I think if they listen to you, they know that's something they should have confidence in. What else you got, Andrew? Anything fun?
On that note, I think you could judge a man by the people around him and what they say about him, but more importantly, what their values are. And Tyler wasn't at National, but your team was. And a lot of the values, kindness, transparency, being welcome, not taking yourself too seriously. When I walked into that booth, Cage, how friendly were the people? How awesome they were taking. It showed that your values are kind of spreading through the team, and that's how I judge people. So we've known each other 7 months. We've talked offline. We've done episodes together. It's been really, really fun getting to know you, Tyler. Like I'm truly rooting for your success, just to see how you've done things and how you've gone about building
welcoming,
the team.
right? Not just smiling, welcoming, right? So there were a lot of booths at the National where if you wanted to see a weird ticket and get growled at, they were there. You wanted to see graded tickets and not get a smile, they were there. You wanted security blocking you out and not letting you get anywhere near their cards. That was there. You wanted long lines. That was there too. You know what we got when we walked to the HGA? We got, take this pen. It says HGA. I still use it right now. And by the way, have you ever held one of our slabs? Here you go. Here's one of our slabs. Take a feel. Put it, grab one, feel it, rounded edges, feel the weight of it, feel it in your hand. Take a look at some of the custom slabs we have here. We have
made in America.
Display.
All of our parts are made in America.
come
Every bit
in,
of 'em.
come into our area. Yeah, we're not grading here now, but we're going to work on that for future shows. And, but take a look. Here's what the Pokemon ones look like. Here's what these look like. Here's what the Pokemon in Japanese. Here's an Otani. Here's a HGA on display.
Here's our beard product as well, because everyone has beards at HGA.
Absolutely. It's required.
Can we, not to talk hobby drama, but maybe as a businessman, we could talk about what you saw transpire last week with the whole eBay PWCC standpoint. Like, if you have a businessman's take on that, you've been in negotiations, all that stuff. We'll end on that. The floor is yours, Tyler.
I've been trying to keep up with it. If some of the shared screenshots are accurate, I mean, it's a dirty way to do business. I've seen screenshots from the CEO texting people like, hey, make sure you bid this up. There was multiple screenshots shared. And if that's happening, I mean, good for eBay for shutting them down. It kind of makes you wonder who's been overpaying for cars because stuff's been shill bidded. But I think that's something that happens. And I'm not saying it's PWCC shill bidding all the time, but I mean, if I send a car to PWCC and I'm following it and I'm not getting enough money, I bid on it, to drive the price up. And that's kind of what the messages that was being sent from the CEO to people were saying. So I try not to get into too much of it. But again, I'm opinionated and I share my opinions. If that's something that they are proved to have been doing, I think people need to just exercise caution.
Does it bother you at all that the way that eBay, like, you have partners in business, right? No one builds a business on their own. You either partner, you have employees, but you also have partners. Our business, we have cards to sell. You have a lot of users who want to buy cards. We work together. Is that, from a business standpoint, is that a good way to out someone? That's where it rubbed me the wrong way.
Absolutely. I mean, I think eBay did it wrong. I mean, just to blast them, I think there should have been probably behind the scenes talks. And we don't know that there wasn't. I mean, we don't know if they try to reach out to him and he's like, no, it didn't happen, and just kind of blew him off. And then they're like, all right, we'll have to get their attention some way. So we don't really know what happened behind the scenes. So I try not to make too much judgment calls. I know what was released. I seen PWCC's response saying they didn't know. Then you've seen screenshots from customers saying that they've got messages from the CEO on a mantle, bid it up. I know there's already bids on there for 50,000, so bid it up to 47. So those remarks like that made, which worry you as a consumer trying to buy a product, like who's shill bidding you up just to make sure you're going to pay market value for it and you're not going to get a good deal on it and they're not going to make their percent on it. So it's definitely worrisome that people do that. But anybody can do that on their own account. So people have, I mean, you can literally look at any, I won't say any, but there's a lot of auctions that you can go on and click, users who bid on it, the bids list, and see the people with zero feedback. Somebody could have created an account just to bid it up, and then if they win it, they don't pay themselves, they just cancel the auction, and then they just redo it again. So, I mean, you see a lot of stuff like that. PWCC is obviously a huge seller. They're the largest seller. I think they had over 150 million in sales last year, over the past year. So, I mean, it would suck if, the largest seller was, being dishonest.
Well, listen, I'll take it a different way because you don't want to, we don't know all the facts, and who knows if we ever will. But I'll butcher the line, but I view you as Tony Montana, right? And he says, I got two things I don't break: my word and my bows. I don't break them for nobody, right? And he's not gonna break his word, right? He's it's a word. Your word is your bond. That's how I view you, right? Somebody who who you say something and you do it. Right? If you say you're going to do it, you follow through and you do it. We try to be the same way. We try to be honest with people. So I guess what I'll ask you is forget about what happened. Forget about PWCC specifically, eBay specifically, forget about all the hobby drama. What happens when you have that type of stuff is you get headlines like the hobby's in trouble. You get headlines like, what does this mean for the hobby? This will have a negative impact on the hobby. What would you say as someone who I think follows through on their word to the folks in this hobby about what you see going forward? You see increase in demand, you see increase in people who want your product and everybody's product, right? So what do you say to those people to instill a little bit of confidence in them?
I mean, I don't believe that shill bidding is necessary. I mean, what they probably accomplished by shill bidding is probably less than what they understand. I know we got accused of shill bidding in the beginning. People were like, oh, their cards shouldn't sell as much as BGS and stuff. And I took that personal. And I called everybody. I'm like, as smart as you all say you are, please find one example of shill bidding on any of the auctions that are listed with our cards, and we will call out the customer and we will block them and not grade with them. So if they were being honest and saying that people are bidding up their own cards, that's one thing. But when they have messages that they were sharing, it's wrong. Do I think it'll hurt anybody? No. There's already companies that are already larger than PWCC on amount of cards that are being listed that have passed them. So I think it would just make people leery of them, and it would open the door and opportunity for others who are growing and being honest and have integrity. So I think, all it does is just makes everybody, more steadfast and being an honest person. I mean, if you get called out like that, I think you deserve to lose your business.
So, September 18th, computer vision demo. You're coming back on Lucas Tigers Bronze. We're going to do some fun stuff there.
Andrew will be broadcasting from the water slide in Tennessee.
Pokemon, you guys are now officially grading Pokemon TCG?
We are. Yep.
Awesome. Any news, any alerts? Where can people find you? Where can people stay up to date with updates for HGA?
I run our Facebook page. I have a lot of people that help, but I do all the personal posts on there. So that's the easiest way to continue to follow us. We're going to add some more blog sections on our website here soon, so you can actually keep up to date on our website as well for people who don't use Facebook. And then typically my Twitter manager, Instagram, and TikTok, they usually take any post from Facebook and try to share it over to the other platforms just so it gets out everywhere. So we try to make sure that everything's getting shared across all platforms.
Thank you, Tyler. We didn't
Absolutely.
Cage and I didn't get a chance to say thank you. We really enjoyed, the episodes with Irving Fryer when you had the Q, Spud Webb, the Sandlot kids. That was a lot of fun. Shout out to Joe and Amanda. A lot of you guys maybe haven't had the privilege. We've been really fortunate to meet Tyler's team. Awesome people across the board. So just wishing you all the success in the world, and appreciate you taking the time today.
Appreciate you.